Hello, everybody, and welcome to From the Mezzanine. From the Mezzanine is the Broadway podcast for the Broadway fans, where we talk about all things Broadway news, Broadway grosses, and let's be honest, all of the tea and gossip that happens week to week in the Broadway stratosphere. Hello, everybody. I'm your host, Lindsey Stone. Welcome to this week's episode. So happy you're here. And I'm so happy I'm here because it has been so long since it has just been you and I on the pod gossiping and gushing about everything that's been going on in Broadway. And honestly, I'm lit about the fact that we've had so many incredible guests on, so many amazing interviews, having Josh on last week, having literally Melody Rose on the week before. Come on, that is the best. But do not fear. This is not an interview pod. Yes, we love the interviews. Yes, we love the guests. That is so fun. And it is such a nice change up and switch up. But this is where you're coming for your Broadway news week to week, right? I don't want people to start thinking, oh, this is an interview podcast. No, this is just a Broadway happy place podcast. And yeah, we're going to have awesome, incredible guests on that you dearly love. But we're also just going to catch up. And my favorite comments are when people just tell me I feel like I've been talking to my best friend about Broadway for the last hour and I love it. That's my favorite thing. And I want us to still be able to sit down, just you and I, talking and gabbing and yapping about Broadway. So this week, I do have a few things up my sleeve. If you're watching on YouTube, my very long bell sleeves. I have a few things up my sleeve because it is a holiday weekend. And guess what? There's literally no news. I hope that by the time this comes out on Tuesday, there's not this huge, big piece of news. I feel like I'm speaking it into existence as I'm telling you all this right now. But as of right now, there's little to nothing to talk about. I was like, okay, can we talk about the Edinburgh Fringe? Oh my gosh, I love the Edinburgh Fringe. I've always covered it. But I feel like I have to be there to see it and to be able to speak on it. And there's so many awesome theater creators out there who attended the Edinburgh Fringe who can give you a real synopsis. I watched Mickey Joe's, I think his name is Mickey Joe. Oh my God, I hope I got that right. He's a great theater influencer, and he is big on YouTube, and he gives great critiques, and he attended the Edinburgh Fringe and saw 60 plus shows. I watched the entire video, and I was like, I'm going to talk about these shows on the pod. At the end, I was like, they can just go watch Mickey's video. And since last week we talked about the upcoming fall season, I thought it could be fun to take a step back, fall back, and talk about the season we just had on Broadway. And I'm only going to pick up a few because it is a hefty stack. I have a ton of playbills in front of me that are my rankings of every show that I have seen thus far this year till right now on Broadway. And it's a lot of shows. In total, I think I saw 37 shows so far for the year. That's crazy. I think that's more than I saw last year, which makes sense. I met Bryn this year, so that's why. But before we get there, I also put out a call for help on my Instagram, asking you guys to submit questions and answers that I would answer live on the podcast, baby. So that is also what we're doing in this episode. But first, of course, we have to go through the Broadway grosses. So let's do the Broadway grosses. It's been so long since it's just been us, and I honestly I'm having fun. I'm recording this late at night, and I have my wine, and I have all my playbills over there, and I'm just having a good time with you guys. Okay, also, this is what the podcast is when it's just me. I'm having all of these fleeting thoughts. Also, the giveaway winner for my giveaway on my Instagram is announced today when this comes out on Tuesday. And so whoever that lucky winner is, I don't know at this time because I have not selected the winner yet, but awesome. And thank y'all. And hopefully I have some new listeners now from doing the giveaway because that was awesome. That was so fun. And hopefully y'all loved the giveaway. Hopefully one of you listening right now are the winner of the bracelets from Broadway Stacks because I love those bracelets. I wish I could be the winner of my own giveaway, to be honest. Okay. Let's get into the Broadway grosses. So this is for the week ending on August 25th. And top of the ranks, who have we got? It's Wicked again. Oh my God. This is incredible. Wicked and The Lion King neck and neck. You know what I think it is? Why do I already have chills? You know what I think it is? I think that it's because the movie is coming out and all of that press for the movie is bringing more people in to see the show. That's cool. I didn't see that happening. But also, like, I never assume that the shows that are at the top can really gross any more than they already do. But I do think that inadvertently, from doing all of this press on TV, and they're drumming up such intense excitement for the movie, that is also carrying over onto Broadway, and people are going to come and see the show on Broadway too. So I absolutely love that. That is so totally cool. So number 2, we have Lion King. And let me tell you guys, these top 2 shows, Wicked and Lion King, neck and neck. All right. There's not a huge difference between the two, but I love Wicked being on top. Yes, let's go. Okay, 3 is Hamilton, 4 is Cabaret, and 5 is Outsiders. Outsiders is moving up in the world, guys. Also, so is Cabaret. That means that Hell's Kitchen has now been jumped down to spot 6 on the grosses. Literally, this is what I love to see, y'all. I love to see nothing is really going to compete with these top 3 shows. However, I love to see the new musicals pushing up in those ranks and doing so well and just profiting so much, because even if it means it's really hard to get a ticket to the shows that we so deeply adore, it also means that these shows are not going anywhere, and they're going to run for a long time, unless, of course, they close the show. But I don't see that happening for the Outsiders. For some reason, I do think it's going to happen for Cabaret, because I do think that whoever's in those lead roles definitely like matters for Cabaret. I don't think it matters for the Outsiders. They've already proven that, considering it's basically an entire cast of everybody making their Broadway debut, with a few that are not. Joshua Boone, Skylar Lakota Lynch, Brody Grant. Sorry, guys. I've had a cough all week, so if I sound a little funky, that's why. Brody Grant, I don't think he was on Broadway. I know he was in Parade, but I think that was still whenever it was at City Center. So are they the only ones that have had their Broadway debuts? Tilly has been on Broadway. There's a couple here and there that have definitely made Broadway debuts. But for the most part, Melody, I think, said 11 of them making their Broadway debut. So that's insane for a show that is doing so well in the grosses to not have like one big featured stunt cast or star at the helm of it. For it to be doing so well is really, really incredible. So yay, go Outsiders. We always just have to like stop and talk about Outsiders every time I see it on the grosses. Sorry if that's not what you came for. This might not be the place for you. I'm being totally honest. But Outsiders, we stand the Outsiders here, okay? This is Outsiders safe space, honey, on From the Mezzanine. So after Hell's Kitchen at 6, we have MJ the Musical at 7. Moulin Rouge is 8. They are bumping up some, so that's great. Aladdin is 9. Gatsby is 10. I just had the aha moment. The reason all of these shows have bumped up is because The Wiz is absent from this week's grosses because they took their final bow. So that's, I mean, I don't know. It's kind of crazy. So The Wiz did not get very good reviews, actually pretty bad reviews. And it's kind of surprising that they didn't try to stay on Broadway longer, considering how much they were grossing. They were not doing poorly. I wonder why they decided to leave so quickly, because they were doing really incredibly. It's just like, that's a really bizarre framework. And I think it was always going to be a limited run because they came from the tour, came to Broadway, now they're headed back on tour. But that just doesn't make any sense to me why they wouldn't have extended their run, despite the lack of good reviews. I don't understand that. I don't know what the like logic and strategy is behind that. Anyways, right behind Gatsby is Oh Mary. That is, oh my God. Oh Mary, that's freaking good. Harry Potter is behind them. So Harry Potter's been bumped down, and now Ariana Madix is back in Chicago, and Chicago's moving up. We're moving on up to the east side, to a deluxe apartment in the sky. I feel like a lot of stuff has exited from Broadway recently, and our list of shows right now, it's looking kind of thin, and that's because we have so many new arrivals coming, like we talked about last week. But this week we're talking about all of the past shows. Wait, we can't get to it yet. I'm so excited. I just can't wait because I have my stack looming over me in the background over there of the shows I've already sorted into most favorite to least favorite. But before we do that, I want to go through y'all's Q&A questions because y'all submitted some seriously fun questions. and I think we should get into it. So my inspiration behind doing these Q&A questions, I reached out on Instagram, said, ask me anything for the pod this week, low-key because it was a dry news week. But I've gotten a lot of new listeners and followers lately, and I'm so happy that y'all are here. And, you know, a lot of y'all know me so well. Y'all could probably answer these questions that I was sent yourselves. I literally love y'all for that. But there's a lot of newbies here who don't know literally every show that I've seen in the past 3 years. And I want to bring everybody into the From the Mezzanine fold. And I want y'all to get to know me a little bit more. And honestly, answering Q&A questions is so fun. So let's do it, shall we? To kick it off, I'm going to do my best to pronounce y'all's Instagram handles the best that I can. But Julie_Exandria asks, what inspired you to start the podcast? And I've said this a couple of times before. And my inspiration behind starting From the Mezzanine was purely because I needed an outlet. Y'all, I am a corporate girly. I work a 9 to 5 every single weekday. And it's really a 9 to 6. Don't believe what Dolly Parton says. It's really a 9 to 6, guys. I love my job. I do. I think it's great. It's what I went to school for. I do marketing for a firm here in New York. And it's a wonderful, wonderful job. I dearly love it. I've always loved what I do. Would I want to have a full-time career in theater? Honestly, not really. I had the option to do that when I was starting fresh, when I moved to New York City. And I made the conscious decision and deliberate decision not to start a career purely in theater, because that's always what I wanted to do. I wanted to do marketing for professional theaters. And that's not to say that's not something I would ever do in the future. I certainly could see a world in which I would want to do that in the future. However, it's really nice to have like the distinction between the two. And like From the Mezzanine is my hobby. It's my happy place. It's what I do for fun. And then I have like my professional career, and that's on the other side of it. And it's nice to just kind of be able to like separate those two things. I think if I was always in a theatrical mindset day in, day out, perhaps I would get a little jaded. Perhaps I would get more burnt out and not as motivated to show up every single week for y'all on From the Mezzanine. So I love what I do. I'm really happy I chose my career path that I'm currently in. And so but it was a huge reason for me starting the podcast because I've always been interested in theater. I started doing theater from a very young age. I actually just recorded an FTM Storytime over on the Patreon, and I went through every single role I've ever had in any show I've ever been in, from like whenever I was in 3rd grade up until, I guess, senior year of high school. And that was fun to just kind of like walk down memory lane and go through those roles again and put myself back in that headspace because I haven't been there in a while. And that was fun. But anyways, it's always been a present part of my life, and I'm a very creative person, and I needed that outlet. And I feel like a huge part of it was I was posting all this stuff about Broadway on my personal account, and I was like, let's be honest, I love my friends, they love me, but they don't give a crap about theater, most of them, I would say, or enough of a crap. And I was like, I need people who understand me. And when I like repost an article about, oh my God, so-and-so is cast, I want people to be like, oh my God, I can't believe that happened. You know, like I need that outlet so desperately. And that's why I started the podcast. And the podcast has changed and evolved a little bit through the years. And I love that because we've all changed and evolved with it. And I certainly have. And like it started out doing like deep dives and historical dives on like shows and actors and things like that. And I feel like that gave such a good foundation for me personally when I was stepping into this realm. And it gave me a lot of knowledge about theater and about people's backgrounds and things like that. And now that we cover the Broadway news week to week and the grosses, it just creates that sharpness and like that edge. And it makes me feel a little more qualified, air quotes, because I'm not qualified. I'm not a theater critic or anything like that, to be doing this. But y'all don't come here for like critical reviews. You come here for the girly fun times. So anyways, that's why I started the podcast 2 years ago. And I'm so happy that I did. Next question from Bella RC321. She asks, dream podcast guest. Now I saw this question come in and I've thought about it. And there were a few that immediately came to my head, like Idina Menzel, Kristen Chenoweth. I know what one it is. there's one dream podcast guest, Lin-Manuel Miranda. If I could sit down and have a 30-minute conversation with Lin-Manuel Miranda, my dreams will have come true. And there's so many things on the podcast, going to the Tonys, doing some of these interviews I've already done that have been such a dream come true. My dreams have come true multiple times. But if I were to be able to sit down with Lin-Manuel Miranda, that would fulfill every part of me. I have so many questions for him, so many questions about his creative process and how he chooses projects, and what about certain projects draw him in. Like, what about Hamilton's story? What about telling his like own personal story about Washington Heights? What and these things he attaches himself to blow up, and they're so successful, and he's such a sparkly person, and there's just something about him that I think is like, he's a different being. Like, he's just so smart. I think he's a genius on earth. And if I could just sit down and a little bit of that could rub off on me, I just want to talk to Lin. I love him and I respect the hell out of him. And he's certainly my dream podcast guest. I was also thinking like Jeremy Jordan, Aaron Tveit, like those are the ones that just came right to me. But I'm like, yes, please, I want to have all of them on. But the moment I get to like sit down and have a combo with Lin-Manuel Miranda, that would be the best day of my life. Best day of my life. So I think he's number one for dream guest on my podcast. And I would be remiss to not say dream guest on my podcast. I'm so sorry. That's so overdone. Okay. Real Silviana Brew. Oh gosh, girl, I love you. I'm so sorry. Real Silviana Brew. I hope I said that right. Asks, if you could only see one show for the rest of your life, which one? Or in quotations, can be one that's closed. This is a very, very, very easy answer for me. And I want to be more inspired like Josh was last week with like throwing out Secret Garden and all of these like deep cut musicals that you never would think would be like top of mind. Like saying that he would want to be the sour kangaroo. That's his dream role. Oh my God, I love that. But mine isn't quite as inspired as that and unique. My show, without a doubt, that I could watch for till the end of time and not get tired of it is Wicked. That is definitely the show I could watch over and over and over and over again. There's so many layers to it. All of the songs, they have carried me through my life, truly, and they've found new meaning as I've gotten older. It's funny, like I think back to whenever I was learning these lyrics whenever I was young, and when you're young and you're singing along to songs, you don't even know what the words mean, and so you're kind of just saying sounds. And I remember I have this like distinct memory when I was really young, and we were like all in the kitchen making our school lunches, getting ready to head out the door for school, and I was singing the part of Loathing where they're like, she's a tear, she's a tartar, we don't mean to show a bias, but Galinda, you're a martyr. Well, these things are sent to try us. Okay, definitely shouldn't sing that when I'm sick, but I somehow worked a bad word into the lyrics of that, but I had no idea I was saying a bad word. And my dad was like, Lindsey, you can't be singing that. And I was like, Dad, it's in Wicked. I can say it. And he was like, no, you can't say it. Anyways, it's just funny because when I was so young, I didn't even know what the words terror, she's a tartar, we don't mean to show a bias. Like, I didn't even know what the words meant. And now as I've grown up, that's a silly example of it all. But as I've grown, like whenever I was going through like heartbreak, I'm Not That Girl was my jam. And like, I just listened to it over and over, and I felt so seen. And of course, For Good, I think of my sisters. It is such a layered show, and it is such a beautiful show, and it has like the mystery and the seduction and the surprises and the terror and the tartar. We don't need to show bias. Like, it has so much to it. I could never ever get tired of it. Look, it's Glinda. Like, I just love it. So Wicked would be the show I don't think I could ever get tired of seeing. And the funny thing is, I've only seen it 3 times. Ain't no way I'm forgetting a time. Surely I've only seen it 3 times. Yeah, because I saw it twice during the Wicked 20th, literally one day after the next. That was the best. And then once whenever I was younger. And that's it. No, I've seen it one more time, 4 times. There was one other time on tour I saw it, and that was amazing. That was amazing. Sorry. Okay, I knew something was up. I was like, no way. I've only seen it 3 times. Okay, yeah, so that's the show I would see until the end of time, and I would not be mad about it, for sure. Wicked baby. Okay, next question from outsiders_fan124. They ask, what is your fave show you've been in? Wow. Hopefully they know I'm not a little actrice anymore. That was back in my heyday, because I don't do that anymore. I do this podcast, and I love it. This is my stage. But since I will answer this question, since last week I was actually going through my entire theater resume, and I got to kind of reflect on all the shows. And my favorite shows that I have been in, after I reflected on them all, I kind of was like, wait, these are the ones that I have like the best memory from doing. And that has to be Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. I was Violet Beauregard, a good time. And I was really young. I think I was like 12 or 11 or something. And I was obsessed with my costume. I'm still buying dresses that look like that costume because back then I was like, oh my God, this dress is the cutest. I loved it. Anyways, that was an incredible role. Another role I just loved was definitely Ariel in The Little Mermaid. That was just like happiness on stage. It was just so fun. It was such a cute show. And I didn't have to learn a lot of lines because I was Ariel and I lost my voice. And then like the like snooty show I loved was my senior year show. It was called Clothes for a Summer Hotel. And I played Zelda Fitzgerald. And it was a story about F. Scott Fitzgerald and his wife, but mainly his wife. And because she's so much better and I love her. And that's kind of like one of the like defining shows of my life as well, because ever since that show, I just loved everything about F. Scott Fitzgerald and like the jazz age and the 20s and everything. And so that's added a lot to like my personality and my life going forward, you know. And so that was a role that was really, really interesting and really deep. And it came at like kind of a tricky time in Lindsey's life, and she got to tap into some emotions she hadn't been able to before. So it was a very big growing opportunity for your girl, and it was pretty successful, if I may say so myself. So that was a great show and a great character to play. And it is not my favorite because it was very dark, but I did love that. I think my favorite is probably Ariel because I just loved playing Ariel. It was so fun. I got to dye my hair, and it was just super fun, and I loved the choreography. You know, I could still do it to this day. I loved it. All right, that's my favorite show I've been in. This is great. Thank you to Broadway_0001. Thank you for this question. Who in The Outsiders would you cast as Christian in the Moulin Rouge? Now, let's do a full dissertation, everybody. Who do I want as Christian? They have to have the voice. They have to have the candor. They have to have the personality. They have to have the naivety. They have to have the boyishness. They have to have the handsomeness. They have to have, did I already say the character? They have to have the dreaminess. And they have to have the suaveness. And they have to have the sharpness. And they have to have the desperation. And they have to have the cuteness. And they have to have the romance, and they have to have the angriness. Okay. Who's got all that? That's a tall order, all right? So let's think. Who in The Outsiders has all of the above? I'm going to reference my playbill here. Now, I don't want anybody to get offended. I don't want anybody to get offended if I don't choose you. I think I have it. I love when I just have like, boom, I have the idea. I don't have to think too hard. But if we're going off of these performances, and I've never seen any of these men perform in anything but The Outsider, so I kind of have to go like off of their performance. Sky Lakota Lynch. Honey, please be Christian in Moulin Rouge, Sky Lakota Lynch. The boyishness, check. The anger, check. The naivety, check. I see big things for you, Sky, over at the Moulin Rouge. I see it. I wanted to say Brent Comer because visually he fits the bill. I mean, I don't want to get too dicey on here, but they don't get too creative with the way that their Christians look. They are your very classic white boy tenor. And I do love Brent Comer, and I do believe he could be Christian in Moulin Rouge. But it's Sky's time. I want a round of applause. That was a very good take. Sky Lakota Lynch in Moulin Rouge. I love it. Who do I want to play opposite of him? Rachel Zegler. Done. We are bringing the youth back to the Rouge. I love it. I love it. I love it. I think that was a really good take. Because Sky, like, he's just got it in the bag. God, he's such a freaking good actor. He's so good. Okay, next questione. Oh, let's see. Coming from Kaylee_Lorraine. Who is this? Just kidding. It's my sister. Thank you, Lala. What show do you wish you could have seen the OBC of that you didn't get to? Sorry, I read that so weird. What show do I wish I could have seen the OBC for that I didn't? Okay, the first ones that come to my mind. Rent, Wicked, Hamilton. Oh, shoot. Oh, phooey. I really try not to cuss on here. Why do I feel like I'm going to say Hamilton? When it comes down to brass tacks, guys, I think it's Hamilton because I love Rent, and I would, if I could, like, if I could teleport back to see Rent, like, I'd rather teleport back there to that time to see it. This isn't going to make sense, but it makes sense in my head. Like, if somebody were like, which year do you want to go back to? I would say, like, 91, right? When Rent came out. But I don't want to go back to 2015 when Hamilton came out, you know? That's not very interesting. Like, I want, but at the end of the day, it's still Rent. And I love Rent, but it's not my favorite show at all by any stretch of the matter. Like, I love Rent mainly for what it stands for more than, like, the show itself. I love the movie. Oh, my God. I feel like I am, like, walking on eggshells here, not because I don't want to like offend my listeners and like make y'all like sad that I don't love Rent, because I do love Rent, but whenever I've seen Rent live, I'm always disappointed. And so I just don't know if I want to see that OBC, but I would pay like $10,000 to see that OBC right now. But so Rent is out of the picture. Now we're talking about Wicked or Hamilton. And for some reason, I just can't not say Hamilton, which feels so wrong. But that was the first show that I knew the name of every single cast member. And I like worshipped them. I loved Hamilton and I loved that original cast. So I think it would have to be Hamilton, even though. Okay, the reason I'm saying this, and I don't have to keep justifying it, this is my platform. But I just think like now Wicked has grown in to this bigger part of my life. And same for Rent has grown into this bigger thing of my life. And I feel like if I teleported back to see the OBCs, it wouldn't mean so much because they're the OBCs, they're new, they're fresh. But now I'm so inspired by Adina and Kristen Chenoweth, you know? And now they mean so much more to me. No, it's not making sense, but it's Hamilton. I'm sorry. I feel like that's insane to say. I'm criticizing myself. I know, but still. Okay, also coming from my dear sister, and this is rude. And I think you're a bad person for sending me this, just for the record. I love you. You're a bad person. Marry, Kiss, Kill. Aaron Tveit, Jeremy Jordan, Lin-Manuel Miranda. Well, if we're talking romance, I guess I have to kill my dream guest. I don't want to put this out here, but it's true. Because I don't want to marry him or kiss him. I just purely adore him as a human being. So I'm sorry, Lynn. Bye-bye. You are dead. Who do I want to kiss and who do I want to marry? Oh, this is cute. Okay. I think I want to marry Jeremy Jordan because I want to see him every day. Aaron Tveit, I'm okay to not see him every day. I'm okay with just a kiss. Jeremy Jordan. Plus, I've just loved Jeremy Jordan for longer. So I'll marry Jeremy Jordan and I'll kiss Aaron. And I'm sorry, Lin-Manuel Miranda. I just don't want to kiss or marry you. So I have to kill you. Okay. Just sidestep that one real good. Lily A056 asks, favorite Broadway boyfriend ever? Well, I think we all just answered that question with Jeremy Jordan. Yeah, he's my favorite ever. Tobian22, shout out. Hi Jesse. He asks, with everything you have experienced, what moment stood out the most so far? I love that question. It's like an opportunity to just like reflect. And thank you, Jesse, too, for sending in this question and being such an awesome friend. Favorite experience so far. I've had so many amazing ones, from like booking my very first interview and getting to be invited to see a show that was so surreal. And my very first interview was with Jonathan Sayer, and I was invited to go and see Mind Mangler. That was my very first interview. It wasn't the first show that I was invited to. The first show I was invited to was Rock and Roll Man. And that was also surreal. And that just like painted my experience so beautifully, because I just felt like, holy cow, this is why I did it. And I got that opportunity like only a couple weeks after I moved to New York City. So that was just like, boom, instant gratification from working so hard on the move and like making it out here. And like, it wasn't even like the show or anything. It was just the fact that I was like being tapped for that kind of thing. But that was going and seeing Rock and Roll Man for the very first time, first invited show, like coolest and like most surreal opportunity. And then since then, there's just been a number of surreal opportunities. Another one that really stands out was whenever I was invited to the Maestro's Amplify 2024, and I got to be in a room with all of these other performers, and everybody's just mixing and mingling. And I got to see all of these incredible performers, like Santino Fontana, and it was hosted by Bonnie Mitchell. And it was just like, whoa, I'm in this room and I'm supposed to be here. That was an incredible opportunity. And then obviously when things really started getting real and incredible was whenever I went to the Cheetah Rivera Awards, and then the Drama Desk Awards, and then the Tony Awards. I can't even believe I did that. The nerves that I had before the Cheetah Rivera Awards, guys, I thought I was going to make myself sick. I was riddled with nerves because it was my very first carpet to ever do. But I prepared so thoroughly, and it paid off tenfold. Like just the preparation of learning who was going to be on that carpet beforehand, coming up with questions for everybody. And then I did the same for Drama Desk and the Tony Awards. The preparation is so worth it to make the opportunity so much more effortless. And I wish in those moments, and hopefully in the future, I'll be able to just like sit back and like have so much fun with it. And I do have a lot of fun with it, but I'm also like business, like talk to these people, make the most of it. Like in the future, I hope I'll get to the point where I can just like be there and be like, I'm enjoying myself. This is nice. And I'm interviewing people and I'm getting the content and I'm here as a member of the press. But eventually I would just like to be able to enjoy it more. But I've only done 3, and they've been 3 different award shows: Cheetahs, Drama Desk, Tonys, like crazy. And yeah, those all happened like in the span of like 30 days. So it was back to back to back. And those 30 days were like the best 30 days of my life. Was I nervous? Yes. Was it worth it? Yes. And I can't wait for next year. I'm ready to do it all over again. So those have all been the greatest and like most memorable experiences, especially the moments too of meeting the people at the interviews. That is one of the best, and that the interviews are the easiest moments for me. Like those moments now, I'm not nervous, and I'm like, this is gonna be great. This is just gonna be fun. And like most recently with Melody and with Dee Rossioli and with Dariana Mullen from Great Gatsby. Like, those are the moments that are just so enjoyable and pleasurable and very, very fun. And they pay off so quickly. So the best moment for sure is reaching my goal, which was go to the Tony Awards. And I thought it was going to take 5 more years than it did. And without a doubt, that was everything I've ever wanted in life. So I reached that goal and I felt incredible ever since, to be honest with you. Yeah. So thanks for that question, Jessie. I appreciate you. Is that all the questions? I feel like there's one more to wrap it up. Okay, here we go. Love this. The Outsiders updates. Shout out their great account. If you're interested in the Outsiders, they post really good articles about what's going on in the Outsiders world, which it's a big world, so you might need to follow some pages to be able to keep up. But they ask, if there was a musical made about your life, what would it be called? First thing that came to my mind was I'm Just a Girl. But I don't want that to be like, I'm just a girl. I want it to just be like girlhood, girliness, and like fun, good times and easygoing. I'm a very like happy, energetic, lighthearted, fun person, which I feel weird about saying that about myself, but it's true. And I feel like that's me. Like, I'm just a girl who likes to have fun. And that's why I have this podcast, because we're just doing girly things. I know we're not all girls here, but, you share in the girlhood mindset of, just cutting loose and enjoying yourself and working hard for what you want and being proud of what you make of your life. I'm Just a Girl, the musical. See it at a Schubert Alley near you. Honestly, that's pretty good. But then my marketing mind kicks in and I'm like, wait, it should be called From the Mezzanine. No, I'm just a girl. I'm just a girl. Then it would have to be a jukebox musical if that's the song. I'm just a girl. But it could be a jukebox musical, and it could be all of those like classic girlhood songs, like I wake up, they tell me to act my age. Well, I am. It's a perfect day. Nothing standing in my way. Honestly, I'm onto something. This is my musical. Okay, this is it. We are doing like classic girlhood songs. There has to be a Britney song in there, like, yeah. Or isn't she lucky? And it just has to be these classic girlhood songs. What else have I got? There's got to be like a Hannah Montana song in there, like, let's go, Gino, hoo-hoo, it's a girl's night. This is so niche. Thank you for that question, Outsiders Updates. That is my musical, I'm Just a Girl. This has been so fun doing the Q&As. I love that. We won't do them often, but maybe on weeks like this when it's a holiday weekend and Broadway news is dry. However, we have more to get to. The episode is not over yet because we are going through the season of Broadway that I've already seen, and I am ranking these shows from best to least best / worst, if you want to be politically correct about it. I just don't like saying that because I felt really bad whenever I told you about the worst show I've ever seen on Broadway because I felt bad. Okay, this is not the worst show. I just want to get that out of the way, but this is a show. This is not the worst show. We're starting at the worst, but Ben Platt's concert, if you're watching on YouTube, I'm holding up all of the playbills as I go along, but I will definitely do my best to loop y'all in on the podcast because I love y'all too. You don't have to watch YouTube. But I did see the show, and technically it's a Broadway show, and we got a playbill for Ben Platt's concert, but I'm definitely not comparing it to like literal Broadway shows because it's just completely a different beast. But I did love Ben Platt's concert. And it was so fun to get to see him and see him so up close was incredible. And I love Ben Platt. So let's get into the Broadway shows that I saw this season. I think whenever I added it all up, it was like something like 37 shows. However, I've seen some of these shows, cough, cough, The Outsiders, many a time. So it's not actually going to be 37 shows. Let's start at the bottom. I know nobody's surprised about this. It is Heart of Rock and Roll at my very bottom. I did not enjoy this show. This was the first time that I ever thought about leaving at intermission. I did not. But it was the first time I ever pondered the idea. I never, ever, 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 ever have been like, we should go. I didn't feel like I was getting anything out of this. And so many people said they thought it was so camp, and so many people thought it was so funny. I was miserable through the entire thing. I thought I was boring. I thought the story was so uncompelling. And the music, I don't even know it. I'm sorry, Huey. Who are you, Huey Lewis? IDK who you are. I'm sorry. I love Mackenzie Kurtz. I would love to see Casey Cotton something else, but IDK you, Heart of Rock and Roll. I'm sorry to this man. Second to last, we have, oh, this feels crazy, but it's Water for Elephants. This was another show that the acrobatics were really interesting, but by the end of it, I was ready to go. The music did not stick to me. The characters didn't care about them. It was leaps and bounds better than Heart of Rock and Roll, but still it is at the bottom of the barrel, and not much far from it is The Notebook. This is crazy. I know, right, guys? So many love The Notebook, but these are really like neck and neck for me. Like, I think about these shows as one show, The Notebook and Water for Elephants. I'm going to toss Water for Elephants playbill down, and talk about The Notebook, though. The reason The Notebook is higher is because of the performances. The performances were very, very good in The Notebook, and that cannot be underlooked. It has to be said that the performances are very, very good, but this is The Notebook. The story, of course, it's compelling, but for some reason in this capacity, it simply was not. But that's John Cardoza's signature right there, and I love that man. Next up, I do not have the playbill for it, but I put this little slip here so I wouldn't forget to say it, is The Connector. I actually really did not like The Connector, but it did make me think a lot more than Water for Elephants and The Notebook did, which is why I have it ranked higher. The Connector is a Jason Robert Brown musical that I believe was at MCC Theater. It was off Broadway. And it was Ben Levi Ross and Hannah Cruz. And I did not like the music, but the story I found really, really, really interesting. It made me think a lot afterwards. It was about this man who is fighting for his place in the corporate journalism world, and also and he is being handed a lot of opportunities. And his woman-female counterpart, okay, that was redundant, Hannah, who's played by Hannah Cruz, she is just toiling for recognition, and she cannot get it. And she's very talented, and just kind of is like, spoke about gender roles in a really interesting way in the corporate workforce. And it all turned out to be like an untrue story, which kind of took me by surprise by the end of it. It made me question, like, why is this a relevant story to be told? Because it was all fictional, and I thought it was about like a true story about this journalist. And so that was really interesting, but it does leave you like questioning like what was real and what was not. And I thought it was an incredible thought piece, The Connector. So that was a pleasurable experience. Next up is Stereophonic. Honestly, if it didn't win all those Tony Awards, it probably would have been below Water for Elephants and The Notebook for me, but I didn't care about it. I was front row. The performances were incredible. I really liked some of the songs, but it was too freaking long and exhausted the hell out of me. Sorry, Stereophonic. Next up, we have Illinois. Wait, this feels low. Okay, I guess we're already kind of to like my mid-range shows. I really loved Illinois. I loved it. I thought it was beautiful, beautiful storytelling. The only pitfall was that I was aching for somebody to break out into song. And I know that they had those singers on the sides, but I like really was like, please, can we have somebody break out into song? It just felt like so, and I'm not like a dance forward person, you know? That's not something, okay, I super appreciate choreography and dance. I don't want to get it twisted, but I truly love vocals and I love belting, and that's like my favorite thing about musicals. And so to see a show without it was sad, but I don't want this to just be like me telling you the reasons that these shows are ranking low. Like, this show is like mid-range for me in my stack here, and I really truly loved it. It was beautiful, and it was so unique, and it was like drinking a hibiscus cucumber water on the beach on a very hot summer's day. It was refreshing, and I thought it was just thought-provoking. People were crying around us. It was truly beautiful. I wish I could have had a better seat, because honestly, I'm going to regret that for a while, not getting to see that with a better seat. Next up, we have Oh Mary. This was fun-loving, silly, kooky, crazy time. This was girlhood. This was I'm Just a Girl coded. It was FTM coded. It was very fun and very cute and very quirky and very silly and very crazy and crass. And I think everybody who is over the age of 18 should definitely see it, because it's also like drinking. This one is more so like drinking watermelon slush from Sonic after you've ridden your bicycle to the local Sonic, which I have done. It was also refreshing, and because it was such a unique brand of humor that I hadn't seen on Broadway before, and I loved it, but not more than these shows. Beetlejuice. Now. Quiet down, everybody. I know this is crazy that it's ranking so high, but honestly, it was the experience of seeing Beetlejuice. I brought my little cousin. It was his second Broadway show to see, and he's obsessed with Beetlejuice. He loves everything spooky, scary, and he loves Beetlejuice, and he knows every song. And it was beautiful to watch the show through his eyes. He was so well behaved through all of it. And I know it's like a random thing to put in there, but we were a little concerned if he would like stay quiet and engaged in the show. And he did. He was super interested. And I was also just impressed by the show. I wanted to see the show for a while. I'd love to see it again. It's a fun, unique show. And I wanted to come back to Broadway. And I think it should have done better than it did. Next up, we have Kimberly Akimbo. Now, this is a show that left me feeling all warm and fuzzy inside, and like there's good in the world, you know? And we need that. We need that sometimes. It was a stripped back Broadway musical telling an authentic American story, even though Kimberly has a false disease, but it was very relatable. And like, okay, that is high school, but it also was really funny and silly. It's just like, it's similar to Wicked. It's super duper layered. And the best part was going to the stage door and meeting everybody, and everybody was just so kind. And it's just nice to see a pleasant show on Broadway. Is that too much to ask? Next up, we have SUFFS. Now I ask myself, do I really like SUFFS more than Kimberly? IDK. Kimberly should go above SUFFS, but I think I have 2 SUFFS playbills. I do. Saw this twice already. I love SUFFS. I love Shayna Taub's solo songs. Her solo songs are the best part of the show. And I love the friendships depicted in SUFFS. And I love learning at a theater. I do. I absolutely adore it. I got a review recently that I was like, there's too much screaming. Don't care. I'm passionate, okay? And I think SUFFS is not a perfect musical. I do think it is flawed. I think the set could use some help. I think some songs could use some help. I think it's a little too long. But I love the stories. I love what Shayna says. I love Shayna Taub. I just love her. I think she's incredible. I think she is a huge future of Broadway. I think we're going to see a lot from her in her career. And I'm like incredibly hyped about that. If this is her first Broadway show, I'm just like, I have hope. And I think she's a theater kid like all of us. And that cannot be denied. She is as real comes. And that comes through in her work. And I love the way that she plays Alice Paul. And it's a great story. And it was probably a very hard, difficult story to write. And for it to be the message to come across in the way that it does. And it achieves its keep fighting the good fight messaging. It keeps that at the forefront. And it's beautiful. I love SUFFS. Are y'all mad at me for throwing my playbills down? I just thought it looked cool, and now I'm worried that it looks like I'm disrespecting my playbills. Okay, next we have Hell's Kitchen. I know this is kind of crazy, right? So the reason Hell's Kitchen is ranking so high, because maybe if you're watching on YouTube, I have 2 playbills, and they look very different. I have the one from their off-Broadway run and the one from their Broadway run. If we were going off of their Broadway run, Hell's Kitchen would be way lower, but it cannot be denied the experience I had at the off-Broadway production, and it was good, baby. It was good. I was inspired. I thought, I did the right thing moving to New York. I love this city, which is exactly the messaging it wants you to leave with. And I was in awe of the performances and the dancers and the costumes. I love the costumes. And it was an all-around very moving piece. And I thought, oh, baby, is this going to be a hit on Broadway? And it is. But I don't like it as much on Broadway as I did off Broadway. Actually, I don't like it very much on Broadway, but nevertheless, I loved it off Broadway. It was so good. Next, we have Sweeney Todd with Aaron Tveit and Sutton Foster. I saw this twice, and seeing it like multiple times. I think this was like how many times did I see it total? 4. So it definitely, like, since I'd already seen it 2 times with Josh Groban and Annalee Ashford, and that was all taken into consideration with my rankings last year. So when you see a show again, it just doesn't have that same sticking power and like that, like, whoa, this is incredible. What is this? I'm so shocked, because you've already seen it and you're like used to it. And so that's why it's not literally like super duper high. And are we in my top 5? Yeah, okay. It's in my top 5. I think this is 5. So that feels right. And I liked Aaron Tveit's performance. I wouldn't say like it was life-changing. Oh my God. After last week, I almost came for Aaron Tveit's performance, and now I'm doing it again. He was good. I liked him, but Josh Groban fit Sweeney a little bit better, but I love Aaron Tveit. And then I just don't like Sutton. That's all I'm going to say. We've talked about it too many times. Next up, we have Teeth. Now, this is crazy. This is crazy that I loved an off-Broadway show this much, but I freaking did. I love this show. It is a cult following, and I am in the cult, baby. I love that show, and it's coming to New World stages. And if you're into Heathers, you must see Teeth. I implore you. It's just so unique. I love a unique show that's unlike anything else I've ever seen, and I love horror shows. I do. I love being a little bit scared, and it left me feeling so empowered. Next up, we have Appropriate. Now, this is high for a play for me. Y'all saw where Stereophonic and Oh Mary ranked. Pretty low. I loved Appropriate. The acting was incredible, and the story really took you on a journey of this family's trials and tribulations and their deep-rooted history in their southern plantation home, and it had a lot of surprises, and the story of it was just written really authentically, and you believed all the characters were who they said they were, and Sarah Paulson is freaking awesome. Next up, we have Merrily We Roll Along. Guys, I almost ranked this way lower, and then I was like, Lindsey, stop being mad that they won the Tony and Gutenberg did not. But you know what you haven't seen yet is Gutenberg. I digress. Because Gutenberg is over it. Anyways, Merrily We Roll Along obviously was freaking amazing. So that is why they are in my 4th place for the shows I have seen thus far this year. And I don't even know what else to say about it. I've said so much about it already. I love it. Let's go Daniel Radcliffe. You did deserve that Tony. But I would have been happy if Joshua Boone got it. Next, we have The Great Gatsby, which this is girlhood. This is me. I'm just a girl. I just love Jeremy Jordan more than I love Jonathan Groff and Daniel Radcliffe, okay? I love The Great Gatsby. I love this show. This is another show that I could see literally once a week and be happy. I feel at home when I am seeing this show. I think that is truly what it is. When it comes down to the rankings of my shows, it is where I feel at home. It is where I feel seen. It is where I feel happy. I do not have a critic's eye. I'm not seeing Merrily We Roll Along and thinking, oh, best show of the season. No, honey. I like Great Gatsby more than I liked Merrily We Roll Along. If you don't like that, well, then you just are siding with the critics, because Merrily We Roll Along did a hell of a lot better at the Tonys than The Great Gatsby did. But we don't listen to the Tonys here. This is my podcast. But yeah, Great Gatsby. I just love Jeremy Jordan. I love Eva Noblezada. And this is a merry show to watch. You may be Merrily We Roll Alonging over at Merrily, but I'm merrier when I'm seeing Gatsby. Next up, guys, I did see Gutenberg this year. So that is what is in the 2nd place. I don't even need to say anything. Y'all know I love that show. Biscuits. Number 1 is The Outsiders, guys. I have seen this show 7 times because I'm crazy and I love it. And I've had a lot of really good opportunities to see it. And that's why I've seen it so much, but I'll definitely see it more. And this show it definitely spurred the biggest, like, oh my God, I'm obsessed. I love this show. I want to know everybody. I want to be everybody's friend in the show. And I want to interview them all on my podcast. This is the only show that has spurred that within me thus far this year. I hope there's a new show that does this to me, because honestly, it's such a good feeling to be like, oh my God, I love this show. Anyways, this show ignited something within me and in the hearts and minds of so many other theater goers. And it just was the best musical. Therefore, it is my best musical. Boom! That is all the shows that I have seen thus far in this season. And I feel confident in my rankings. Honestly, I do. It might be a little bit crazy. It might get absolutely dragged in the YouTube comments, but I'm okay with that. And thank you guys so much for listening to this episode of From the Mezzanine. before you go, please, please, please leave me a review wherever you are listening right now. If you're listening on Spotify, it's as simple as clicking those stars and give me a 5-star review. I love you for it. If you are listening on YouTube, make sure you subscribe, like, and comment. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts, honestly, guys, that's where it matters the most. So the real ones, please leave me a review on Apple Podcasts because that does amazing things for me. Makes me move up in the ranks, makes From the Mezzanine expand. And you know what? We are never going, let's be a little bit real right now, okay? I'm looking you guys in the eyes. The only way that my dreams will come true and I will get to interview Lin-Manuel Miranda is if I have a billion bajillion reviews and am ranked high on the charts. And literally the only way that happens is by leaving a review. So please, if you're listening on Apple Podcasts, or even if you're not, head on over to Apple Podcasts. If you have an iPhone, it's already on your phone, just saying, and leave me a 5-star review there because I just love you for it. Thank you. If you want to become a Broadway bestie, you can do so by joining the Patreon. I do an FTM story time each month. I do a Broadway vlog. They get first access to the Broadway vlogs and sometimes exclusive access. Shout out the Melody Rose interview. I did a behind the scenes. That is over on the Patreon. That will not be on YouTube. That is especially for my Broadway besties. And I do a Meet Me at the Stage Door, which is practically a bonus episode every single week where we just gab and chat after the podcast wraps. And I will be doing so right after this episode. Thank you guys once again. Share this episode with your Broadway bestie because I'm sure they're going to love it just as much as you do. And I will see y'all next Tuesday.